And you try and do that in female sport, and they're just like, everyone's called a bitch.
Just quickly, maybe just changing tack a little bit. I know that you're a bit of an advocate for equity for women in sport and in triathlon, and I just want to get your thoughts on how that progress is going in triathlon and what still needs to be done for equity between men and women in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, as a sport, we're in a much better position than many sports. I mean, if you look at it on face value, we get the same prize money in, I'd say, most races. There are a few traditional old races in France that still pay differently, male to female, but for most of the time, the prize money is the same. We race the same distance as the men. I think the media coverage is getting better, but I still think there is a long way to go in media coverage and the women being given the same opportunities, the same space as the men. We are making steps in all of this, but in fair racing for the women. So at the moment, the women are between, we go after the male pros, but before the male age groupers, and often our race is affected by both of those groups of people. Whereas, the men, they don't have any effect from anyone else in the race. And so we're racing for prize money in our career as well, but we're having to manage age group guys that are in the pack or the back of the men's pro field, or it's just squeezed in between. And I don't think that's a fair opportunity when it's our livelihoods and prize money. I think still there is inequality in sponsorship, but that's a tricky one to show or prove because it's such a taboo subject as well. But look, I do think we're making some progress. I think there is more and more momentum around the women's sport. I think it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight because it's so ingrained in all our stereotypes to watch male sports. First, there's an argument that people say, oh yeah, but people don't watch women's sport. It's like, because it's not shown. But that change isn't going to happen overnight. I do it myself. You're flicking through sports channels and you find yourself subconsciously, although I'm noticing more and more, I'm not anymore, but subconsciously you filter to the male sports, just that's what you're brought up on. And it's still quite alien to see the women's sport or to consider it, to watch it. So it's going to take time, but the more we get the female side of sport, triathlon, other sports out there, the more people see it, the more people are going to be inspired by it, get into it, the more people understand it. And I think the other difference is not trying to do it in the same way as male sport. Like, it is completely different. It's different personalities, and females act and interact with very differently to males. Like, it's interesting. And again, this is kind of broader statements, but in male sports, they tend to like this sort of bravado, like the banter, like get the egos against each other. So like, the Sam Long, Lionel Sanders, and they got all these big rivalries going. And you try and do that in female sport, and they're just like, everyone's called a bitch. Like, oh, the women are just bitchy. Like, but how do you sell their personalities and get that same rivalry, but it's seen in a completely different way? So you can't market the female side of the sport in the same way. You've got to tell their story perhaps in a different way that's still just as powerful, just as entertaining, just as good. So it's things like that. Like, it's that let's not shrink and pink it and use the female sport the same as we do the men, because it's different. They're different people, different personalities. But yeah, we're getting there. It needs media to keep pushing the female side. It's other female athletes and female pros to support each other, to push out their own stories, or the other stories from the females. It's, the same with the men, like getting people to demand, we want to see the female race, we want to watch this, or that sort of thing. And it's getting brands as well to work with the media and event companies to start challenging, to say, we're going to show this, or we're going to drive this. So it's kind of that. There's no chicken or egg. I don't think. It's sort of everyone needs to work together. But we're getting there. It's just not going to happen overnight. If you think about how many years that sport in general has been dominated by male sport, we're not going to flip that switch overnight. It's going to take a bit of time to get people used to being, actually, no, I can turn on and I can see watch women's sport, and that's totally normal to do that. Yeah.
Hi everyone, Laura Siddall or Sid here. Please like and subscribe to Ironman Hacks.